All right. Good morning, everybody out there. I think I even saw we have someone maybe from Hawaii with us. So I don't even know what time it is there, but for most of you, it should be sometime in the morning. So thank you for attending this morning's webinar. So you got a 5-star review. Now what? My name is Janelle Nappy. I will be leading this webinar today. I work on the business development team here at Weave, and I've been working with small businesses for the last decade of my career. So I look forward to hearing from all of you today, and hopefully you guys walk away with a few new things that you can learn and apply in your business right away. I also want to call out, we have Andrew with us today. Andrew is one of our marketing managers here at Weave, so he'll be helping me out today managing our chat. So if you guys have any questions during the presentation, we encourage you to use the chat feature. It should be in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. You can also post any questions that you might have in the Q&A tab, and then we will go ahead and answer those questions at the end of today's webinar. Okay? So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So as we mentioned at the top, today we're going to be talking about reviews. Right? And you're going to walk away with 3 key points, right? What to do after you get a 5-star review. We all know that feeling. It's super exciting. It's a proud moment for your business, but there are some things that you want to do after you get that first review. We're also going to talk about how to remedy bad reviews. And this is a question I get a lot, right? We'll talk about what to do after you get a bad review. And I just want to start by saying, like, it's okay. Don't freak out. It's okay. And then the third thing is how to ensure that you actually have a review strategy and that you're using that review strategy to get you new business, right? So reviews do have a purpose bigger than just showing a bunch of stars on your Google page. They can be used as leverage to get you some new business. So we'll talk about that as well. Now, if you guys have attended webinars in the past about reviews, I just want you to know this is not a webinar that will teach you how to get reviews, or that I will just be telling you that you should be getting reviews. We all know that reviews are a very useful tool to get new business, to talk about your company and its reputation online, right? And these days, lots of people trust online reviews, probably even more than just a personal recommendation. So we all know that they're important, but today we're going to talk about once you already got that review, then what can you do with it? So to get things started this morning, we're going to start with a quick poll. And so I'm going to open up a poll right now. And basically, I want to understand, of those of you who are here today, I want to know if you feel like you have a true marketing strategy, right? So if you wake up in the morning or you have a marketing team and you understand what you're trying to do every day with that marketing strategy, go ahead and answer yes. If you feel like maybe I have one, sometimes, some days, right? Answer sort of. And if you feel like you don't have a review strategy right now, and that's okay, go ahead and answer no. So I'll give you guys just a couple seconds to answer those questions, and then we'll actually share the results with you so you guys can see what your peers are doing around you. It looks like we've got a good number of votes coming in so far. Some no, some sort of, which is all good. We got a few yeses in there. So again, if you feel like you have a true marketing strategy, right? And that doesn't mean that you're just throwing money at the pot that says marketing, right? You know what money's going in there, what you expect to get back. You probably try new things on a monthly or quarterly basis. Yes, sort of, or no. All right, I'll give you about 15 more seconds to throw your answer in there, and then we'll go ahead and share the results. You have a true marketing strategy. Oh, we still got some votes coming in. Very good. I don't know how many people are on today. Seems like a few of you here. Still got answers flowing in. All right, we'll give you about 10 more seconds to answer that first poll question, and then I'm going to close the poll, and we're going to share the results with the group. And again, there's no shame in any game. Yes, you have a strategy. No, you don't. Any of the answers are perfectly fine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this poll, and then we're going to go ahead and share it. Let's see. Andrew, are you able to share it? It won't let me share it on this.
I think we need to, let's take off this slide and then see if it'll let you.
Do I need to hit stop sharing?
Either that or go to your media.
Let's see. Nope, hold on one second. Let me do stop sharing. And then I'm going to share. There we go. So this is the answers for the group, right? So most of you fall in the sort of bucket, right? Which is pretty common, and that's okay. Some of you feel like you do have a true strategy, and others no, right? And I think that's important, right? That's probably why you showed up today. Maybe you feel like your strategy could be stronger, or you're just looking to gain a strategy altogether. So any way that you answered is just great. You guys will all leave with something that of value today. All right, so let's get back to the actual slides here. Okay, so one thing I just want to say to you guys while we're here this morning is I see this all the time where small businesses know that they have to be paying for SEO, right? We all know that it's something we have to do. Whether we know what we're doing or not is another story, right? So I see it a lot of times where small businesses are just throwing money at these third-party review companies because they call you up and tell you you're going to get this many clicks, you're going to get this many views, your ranking's going to improve by, 10% or whatever it is. And so you just end up you throw this money into this endless pit and you don't really understand what its return is. Right? So that is not a marketing strategy. So if that is your strategy today, we're going to talk about how to change that and get a bit more detailed and intentional with what we're doing. So let's first talk about what happens after you get that first 5-star review, right? First of all, I bet all of you can remember the first 5-star review that you got on your business, right? Go back to that time. And that feeling that you got was probably a pretty proud moment, right? You sort of patting yourself on the back and understanding that people really do value your business. And that's why you started in the first place. So that's a great feeling. Don't lose sight of that, right? Be proud of all of those 5-star reviews that you get. Now, once you're done being proud of yourself and patting yourself on the back, there are a couple things that you want to do to leverage that 5-star review for your business. So number one, and this seems like the most obvious thing, but I see it all the time where businesses don't respond to those 5-star reviews, right? So tell your customer how much you value that review. Tell your patients in person when they come in, right, how much you appreciate them leaving you a review. But make sure to respond online, right? Because what happens is patients like me will come to your website or your Google, review page, and we want to read through the interactions that you have with your customers and patients, right? We want to know how you deal with that or how you speak to them. And so responding is number one, right? Also, as part of Google's funky algorithm, the more conversation or responses that are going back and forth, that ultimately improves your ranking, okay? So number two, ask your patient or customer to use their review in your marketing. Now, what I mean by that is that you can use it on your website. You can use it on any social media ads that you have, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but you want to make sure to ask them to use that review in your marketing. And then third, we're going to talk about ways that you can utilize and post that review everywhere, every channel, every opportunity you get. Those reviews are gold, right? And they're free marketing for you. So we'll talk about how you can actually use that review everywhere in your marketing. All right, so we're going to take a look at some really good examples of how you can respond to customers in your reviews, okay? And there's a little bit of strategy to this, right? Number one, you want to reply directly in the Google or Facebook review, wherever the review came from. You want to respond in that channel. So you'll see here, this review right here, right? The business responded in the response from the owner at the bottom. And the first thing they did is they said, thank you, right? It takes some effort for a customer or a patient to leave you a review. So you always want to make sure to say thank you. Now, one thing that I learned, this was years ago, in terms of your responses, okay, I'm going to teach you guys a little trick. number one, if you get a positive review in your response, you want to mention the name of your business, right? So you'll see in this example here, they thank Charles for his review and they say the team at Beehive works hard too, right? Now, that's part of Google's algorithm that it's associating your business name with a positive review, and that affects your ranking in a positive way. Now, on the other end of things, let's say you get a negative review. In those cases, you always still want to respond, which we'll talk about later, but you don't want to mention the name of your business in your response to a negative review, because similarly, Google is recognizing the name of your business with a negative review, and that can affect your ranking in a negative way. Okay, so first, reply, always say thank you. 2, mention the name of your business in the response. And then 3, mention the specific service you provided, right? So maybe it was just a general cleaning. Maybe you're a home services business and it was, an HVAC service call. Maybe you did some kind of implant work, right? Whatever it was, mention the name of that service that you provided so that other consumers reading the reviews can see and put themselves in the shoes of the customer and know that you do provide those services and somebody had a great experience with them. Okay? All right, so we're going to keep it moving here. Now, the second thing here is going to be asking the customers, right? So we talked about asking your customers or patients to use their reviews in your marketing. Now, might seem like an awkward conversation, right? How do I even ask a customer that question? So number one, you're going to get their permission, and you can do that a couple of different ways, right? You can email them, you can text them, you can wait until you see them at their next appointment. All of those are acceptable, right? Maybe they're a patient that's really close to you and you just want to give them a call, right? Maybe you even go so far, I've seen practices get their patient's permission to record a phone call and get a verbal review over the phone, right? And they've even taken that phone call and they've kind of chopped it up and used it on the social media posts or somewhere like that, right? So it doesn't matter how you ask. There are a lot of ways. Each patient or customer can be different, but the matter of fact is that you just need to ask them and just reach out that first time. Now, if possible, right, don't just ask them if you can use their review in your marketing, but ask some follow-up questions. Dig a little bit deeper. Why did they have such a great experience with you? What has their experience been like? Maybe seeing one of your competitors in the community. What did they expect, right? Especially for any dentists out there, right? Patients generally have a fear of walking into your office and like they're not going to have the greatest experience, but maybe you were able to change their mind, and why, right? All of that is really valuable feedback to use in your marketing, and it just feels good, right? You have a better understanding of the things that you're doing great and why you might be winning over, competition in your network. Okay.
Janelle, we have a couple questions on this one.
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
So the first one is from Naya Vasquez. She asks, do we have to ask for permission to use their reviews in our marketing? Is that necessary?
I always say yes, because you never know where the customer is coming from, right? And oftentimes when you use their review in your marketing, it might say their first and last name. So anywhere that you're posting that publicly, I tend to ask permission or side with yes. It also, I will say, creates a different type of bond or rapport with your patients and customers, showing them that you're paying attention. And number two, that you care about, their privacy or any privilege of using their name or the information that they provided. So I always say yes. Now, are you going to, be in handcuffs the next day if you don't and the police on your front door? No. But I always recommend it just for those couple of reasons. Good question.
Yeah. And then one from Don Thomas. They ask, would mentioning what a patient had done be against HIPAA?
I don't think so. Again, I believe, and again, I'm not a HIPAA compliance expert, so I don't want to, tell you guys one thing and if it is wrong, but I think as long as you get the customer's permission, again, in that initial phone call, hey, I'd love to mention just the service that you had done. And if it's something that they feel a little uncomfortable or maybe embarrassed by, again, I think that's where you reaching out to get permission, you can kind of double dip there and make sure that not only am I getting permission to use your review, but hey, do you mind if it was something a little more sensitive like implants or dentures or, veneer, whatever it is, maybe you get their permission on those ones, right? But just a general cleaning, I haven't seen that be too much of an issue.
Right. And then I guess Don clarified, they mean in your reply to the review on online.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I would say, and again, I am not a HIPAA expert, but I will say that if it was me, if it was just a general cleaning, something like that, I might mention it. But if it was something a little more sensitive that I thought maybe there was a chance the patient wanted to keep it private, I would. That's a good question, but again, I'm not a HIPAA expert on that one.
Gotcha.
Any other questions here?
Yeah, one last question from Bill Cleveland. Can you ask for permission just directly through the platform? I assume they mean, Facebook or Instagram direct messages, anything like that.
I mean, you can. I think that might be a little bit tacky, right? If another patient sees you asking, hey, can I use this review in my marketing on Google? Because remember, that's all public, right? So again, if it was me, I would ask on a private channel rather than having that be able to be read by other potential patients. But ultimately, it's up to you. But that's just my opinion.
So maybe for platforms like Facebook and Instagram that do allow private messaging, that would be
definitely,
okay.
Definitely,
Awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Well, that's all our questions on that one.
Okay, perfect. And let's keep it moving. So we're going to talk about how you can utilize these reviews everywhere in your marketing, right? So let's say you've reached out, you thanked the customer, you've asked them if you can use their review in your marketing, and they've said yes. That's the best case scenario, right? Now, what do we do with that? So number one, you want to showcase good reviews on your website and in any ads that you might be running, right? So all of you either have built your own website or you have a third-party company who's built your website for you. That's great. Now you can use an example like this you see here on the right. Typically, you'll see something at the bottom, kind of like maybe a banner on the website of what the customers are saying, and you might even have reviews or quotes from customers kind of moving in and out of the screen. But that's a great place to start, right? Is using those reviews on your website so that if a patient or customer goes to your Google page, they see you have great reviews, then they click your website, they get there, they also get confirmation that you have great reviews. That's just a plus, right? Number two, brag about the customer, okay? Please brag about the customer, not the review, not yourself, right? It's all about the customer or patient, right? So maybe this patient was really nervous and they came in and they were you could tell that they were nervous, but they were so kind, right? Or maybe they just were really brave, right? Maybe they were having something done and it wasn't, something that they really wanted to be there for. Or maybe, if you're in home services, sometimes you get great homeowners that, get you a water or Diet Coke or whatever while you're working, right? Mention those things, brag about the customer or the patient, so that anyone reading it, right? Remember, you're talking to an audience in so many ways that they feel comfortable and they feel like they're valued just as much as a patient or a customer as your business is in the community. And then number three, tell the customer's story or the patient's story, right? And again, remember, if it's something super private or something sensitive in any of these medical fields, then you maybe don't want to tell that story. But these are all things that you can learn from your patients when you call them or when you reach out to them to use their review, right? And you ask those additional questions. Maybe you find out some more information that can become helpful in telling their story. Okay. All right. So I thought this was pretty interesting, right? We talked about the power of reviews a little bit at the top, but I don't think any of these numbers will surprise you. I think they just give you confirmation that these are really important, right? 92% of customers now look at online reviews when considering a business. It's the first thing you do. Whether you're looking for a plumber, a dentist, an optometrist, a vet, it doesn't matter, right? The first thing everybody does is they go to Google. 79% of customers trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations, right? So before Google and Facebook and all of those, what'd you do, right? You asked your neighbor, hey, do you know a plumber? Hey, do you know a good dentist? Who do you see, right? And you generally took that recommendation to the bank, right? And that's where you went. Well, now you can go online and see reviews from a lot of different patients and customers, not just someone that you know. And so that tends to build trust with the consumer or the potential patient that's looking at your practice. And then 73% of customers Only pay attention to reviews written in the last month. Now, I see this one a lot, and we're going to talk about it here coming up, but reviews from a year ago, you can't bank on that, right? So reviews is a game of consistency. So if you are sitting there and you're like, well, I have 3,000 reviews, but the last one was in 2019, you got to spin it up again, right? We need some recency here. And so we're going to talk about that a bit. So these are 3 things that customers are looking for or patients are looking for when they're looking at reviews, right? Number 1 is your rating. So what's your overall rating? You all probably have an idea of how many stars you have on Google or, what your Facebook ranking looks like. So when you have a range of reviews, right, patients will often, not only look at your 5-star reviews, but they want to look at your 1-star too, to look at comparisons. And I'll tell you, just going back to the last couple slides, 1-star reviews are just as important to make sure that you have a reply on those. Okay, so 5-star or 1-star, you're replying to all of them. And then recency, we just talked about that, right? When was the last time a review was given? Especially, think about COVID, right? COVID's still not over, right? We're still battling that. But especially in 2020, if you have great reviews from 2020, that shows a lot to new potential patients or consumers, right? That you are a business that was able to evolve. You were able to still provide 5-star service. And that can mean even more, right? Because we all businesses had a hard time during that year particularly. So I always think that focusing on 2020 and any positive reviews that you have there is really important. And then quantity, right? So you might have the best rating ever, but you only have 10, right? So a business that has 1,000 is considered more reputable than a business that has 10. So aside from rating and the amount of reviews, the recency, the amount of them makes a difference, right? So you want to continually be growing that number of reviews and not just settle, right? And I always thought, just as coming from a consumer mindset, that at least 50 reviews would show me that the business is for real, right? And that they've had, some activity and some consistency with their reviews and their patients. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens when you get the 1-star review, right? So just as high as you were for the 5-star review, sometimes that 1-star review can bring you back down to earth and you can feel pretty low. But my advice to you all is don't worry about it. It happens to every business, the best businesses, right? So your reply is really what tells the other half of the story here. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you have a 1-star review. What I care about is how did you actually go and handle that 1-star review? How did you interact with that patient after the 1-star review? So number 1, you want to respond as quickly as possible. Don't let that 1-star review sit there for too long, okay? Now this one I'm going to say it very loud and clear. Keep calm and be professional. No swearing at your patients, no telling them they were wrong. I've seen it all. Please don't do that. It doesn't win you any battles, I promise you. Number 3, ask questions and investigate. So you'll see here in this response from the owner that they might ask, hey, why were you unhappy? We're sorry, right? So they're doing all the right things. They're sounding professional. They're asking some questions. And I also want to point out that I've seen reviews come in. My husband's actually a chef, so he's gotten negative reviews for his restaurant before. And it turns out that consumers were giving him a negative review for things that had nothing to do with his business, or they might have actually been fake reviews from people at other restaurants, right? Coming onto his page, leaving a bad review. So if you notice any reviews that maybe you don't recognize that patient's name, or your office was closed that day and you know for a fact, right, that review couldn't have been real, you can actually reach out to Google and flag the reviews that are false, inflammatory, or might be misleading, right? So I've seen practices and customers get reviews removed that they could prove are fake or, aren't, something that came from one of their patients or customers. Okay. All right. Now, when you get that 1-star review, it's all about damage control, right? So again, you're not going to go out and argue with your patient or customer. But number 1, you want to own up to the mistake or the complaint, okay? And you can take a look at this negative review and then the response here from the owner, okay? They make sure that their team members are being considerate and safe drivers on the field. It doesn't hold up to their normal standards, right? Own up to it. That's the most important thing. Now, you also want to give the customer context, right? So in this case, they're talking about prioritization of customer service, and each day this is what they try to do. They take this very seriously, right? So give the customer or the patient some context in terms of what your standards are and what your goals are, okay? Then you want to make an effort to remedy the problem. So in this review here, you'll see that this business actually thanks this customer, even in a negative review. Thank you for the feedback, right? Because this probably spurred something on in their mind where, they're going to go check in with their employees to see what happened, right? And if they don't get that feedback, they might just continue on with their day and never know that something like this happened, right? So you want to make an effort to remedy. They even go so far in this review to leave a phone number. Hey, here's a phone number you can call. If you have any more feedback for us, please let us know, right? And then remember, don't mention the name of your business in this response. This response is, a paragraph long, and they didn't mention the name of their business intentionally, right? Because it's a negative review and you don't want that associated with the name of your business. Okay? All right, let's keep it moving here. So let's talk about I want to know what your review strategy is, okay? So we've talked about how to, what to do after you get a 5-star review. We've talked about what to do after you get a 1-star review. So now in your mind, I want you to imagine when you leave this webinar today, what is your review strategy going to be? Is it going to be to get more reviews? Remember the amount of reviews that you have. Maybe that's the most important thing. You're looking at your Google page right now and you're like, ooh, like Starting Fresh HVAC, I only have 2 reviews. I got to get that number up, okay? Or is it to improve your rating? Maybe you have reviews. In this case, Cool Kids HVAC has 87 reviews, but a 3.7 star rating isn't the best they can do, right? Maybe they're after a 4-star average. And then your third option is to outrank the competition. Now, there's some of you out there like me. I'm probably one of the most competitive people on the planet Earth, for better or for worse, right? That's what my husband tells me all the time. But maybe your goal is just to outrank everybody in your community. You want to be the best. You want to be the brightest. Like Hell Freezing Over HVAC, right? They have a 4.7 rating. They have over 2,200 reviews. So maybe it's just to beat everybody in your community. So think about that in your mind, right? When you leave here today, what are you going to focus on? Getting more reviews, improving your rating, or just outranking everybody around you, okay? And we're going to show a quick poll, and I want to see what you guys are going to leave here with today. So let me open this up for you. Okay, so the poll is now open. So what review strategy are you going to focus on the most when you leave here today? Growing the number of reviews, improving your overall rating, or outranking all your competition around you? I'll give you guys probably about a minute to take that poll there, and then we'll share it and we'll see where you guys are at. Ooh, we got some competitive people out there. I love it. That would be mine for sure. Outranking the competition. Got growing our reviews in there. I don't see too many improving the overall rating. So you guys must have strong reviews out there. We just need more of them and to beat everybody around us. All right, I'll give you guys maybe 10 more seconds there. What is your review strategy going to be focused on when you leave here today? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share the results, and I'm just going to let them keep trickling in here. So here's what we got so far. So we got a pretty good balance of those competitive folks out there, and then those of you who just need more reviews. So now for those of you who need more reviews, keep in mind, I want you to pick a number, right? Set a standard. Don't make a goal, set a standard. So let's say that you have 10 reviews. Your standard is 50. So what are you going to do to get 50? Right? So just make understand where you're at now, and then set a standard for how many is good enough. And then we're going to go reach that goal. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to our platform here. Sorry, give me just a second. Now, we talked a lot today about how you can leverage the reviews that you have. Now, keep in mind that Weave obviously has all of these tools, reviews and more within our platform, right? So not only do we help you with reviews, we help you with your phone, missed call texts, right? How many calls you're missing every week. We can turn those into text messages to keep those customers with you. Scheduling, payments, analytics, we've got it all. So if you're interested in a Weave demo, there's a little button up top that says request a weave demo, and one of our folks will reach out to you and get you on a live demo and show you the platform in its entirety, right? But reviews are a really big part of what we do. So if nothing else, make sure to check us out for that, okay? So I want to know if we have any additional questions from the group. We talked about a lot today, so I'm happy to answer any of those questions that might have come in during the presentation today. Andrew, do we have any?
Yes, we have a lot of great questions. Let me load all of them here. So Eddie asks, do you have to reply to all of your reviews, good and bad?
Now look, it depends on your definition of have to, right? Is it the law? No. Is it highly recommended to leverage those reviews you are getting in the best way? Yes, right? Now the follow-up question to that, and why you might be asking that question is, well, damn, how do I have time to reply to all those reviews, right? So I've seen businesses give this particular job to someone in their office, right? So maybe it's your office manager, maybe it's someone on your marketing team, maybe it's you because you just really want to have an idea of what your patients are saying. So if that question is coming from a place of, I don't know if I have time, don't be afraid to delegate this to someone else and make that a part of their daily or weekly routine and something that you can hold them accountable to, right? Because it is very important. So good question.
Wonderful. Next up, Bill asks, I've seen a lot of generic, please call us responses to reviews that, let's see, turn me off as a user. What are your thoughts on providing an email phone number to asking the reviewer to contact you?
Yeah. I think it's a good option, right? I think that comes from in your reply, you can give them context, you can thank them, and then you always do want to give them some kind of option. I always think, right, to really put the ball in their court. Hey, if you're really passionate about this and you want to call us or talk to us about it to remedy the situation, then I think you give them an option, right? Remember, because what we think is useful or not doesn't mean that every one of our patients feels the same way, right? So if they are someone who prefers to email, like my dad, bless his heart, when something bad happens in customer service, he's writing a letter. And I'm dead serious. He will write a letter. He wrote a letter to Levi's about jeans not fitting the right way, right? That's just how he goes about it. So I think the more optionality you give to make them feel comfortable, however they want to remedy, even if it's just blurting out their feelings on Google, at least you've given them that option.
Excellent. And Rebecca asks, we have reviews that are unanswered from before they took over. I assume they mean the business doing the reply. Oh, before they took over doing the replies. Should they replies to those now? Some of the older ones?
I mean, that couldn't hurt, right? If nothing else, it gets you kind of in the musculature and the habit of responding. And you might even, I've seen businesses, they will have almost even templated, right, responses, right? So you might kind of find your legs if you're new to replying to reviews on replying to some old ones that probably aren't going to affect your business too much one way or the other. But it might just be a good exercise for you to kind of get in the habit and find your words and what you'd like to say to patients or customers.
Excellent. And what do you do when a review is left, but it's maybe not your patient? Like you're not the only Dr. Ashcroft in the area and they leave it on the wrong doctor?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that would go back to reaching out to Google. If you don't recognize that patient name, maybe there was some confusion because there is a doctor with the same last name in your area, then you can actually request that Google remove those reviews from your business. So you do have that option. But, and I want to, hold on, I want to add one thing to that. What I wouldn't do is go in your reply and say, hey, I think you meant to leave this reply for another doctor, in our community, because then you kind of throw them under the bus, right? And that's not good for anyone. So I wouldn't do that. I would just either, maybe you apologize and just kind of wear it on the chin and know that, it's going to equal out around town, or you reach out to Google and ask to get that review removed.
Right. Excellent. Carla Pearson asks, how do I contact Google to even get started? They acquired providers that were affiliated somewhere. Their name is similar to other offices and they want to get it combined. They would like a clean slate, right? How can they get started there?
Yeah. I don't have the exact answer to how to do that. We can look after this webinar. You guys should receive an email And then if we want to just make a note, we'll have the contact list. If we have any specific questions that we can go find the answer to, but I really don't know how to get a clean slate. I would just start, maybe you might even Google on Google how to do that. And I'm sure that you'll find some articles or other people that, did the same thing. I don't have step-by-step instructions here, but that would be where I would start.
Wonderful. And we've got a couple people with this same question. It seems like we've got some Weave users on the webinar, which is excellent.
Great.
They're asking, they've sent out some auto texts to ask for reviews, but they haven't gotten reviews from that feature. Any advice on how they can better use that feature to get reviews through the Weave platform?
Yeah, so it's one, congrats on figuring out that that's a good way to do it, right? So you can, in the auto text, if you have a link in your email signature, right? Because I know Weave is sending out emails as well. You might have a little hyperlink, hey, leave us a review there. If you have, of course, outside of Weave, right, just on your website or your business cards, right? You want to tell people to leave you reviews everywhere. But of course, the auto text, look, some people aren't going to leave reviews, right? You can't make them. One thing I will say on this, though, that I've seen that I do not recommend, do not incentivize your customers to leave you 5-star reviews, right? I wouldn't also on public channels incentivize them to leave you a review in favor or in exchange for something, right? Because then you're setting the standard with any future patients that they're going to want free things just to go leave you a review, right? So encourage people to leave you a review, but don't incentivize them to leave you reviews, or worse yet, don't incentivize them to leave you 5-star reviews. And yes, I have seen that in a number of small businesses. Not a good idea there.
Right. Here's one from our Q&A. If someone gave me a review on Home Advisor, can I transfer that review over to Google?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. So unfortunately, Home Advisor, Angie's List, Thumbtack, any of those third-party review sites that you might be gaining reviews on, those are proprietary to those platforms. So you are not able to bring over any reviews from outside platforms into Google. So your Google reviews are coming organically from Google. Good question.
Gotcha. And do you think, this is from Bill Cleveland, do you think any response to reviewers should be different based on whether or not they're a Google Guide or their Google Guide level?
I think it's kind of personal preference, right? I mean, you could. I prefer. If it was me, I'm leaving, different reviews for every single patient, just because I think it sounds a little bit more personable. But again, that's really your call.
Right. And I think we already spoke to this a little bit, but a lot of customers never leave reviews. How can I get my customers to do so and engage better?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? So keep in mind, as a consumer or a patient, the number one reason why I'm not leaving a review is that it's too much of a hassle, right? So if you have not only used Weave, or you have like a survey, right, where the customer has to open it, then answer 5 questions just to get to the review, right? Like that's a lot of work for us. So you want to keep it as hassle-free and don't make it inconvenient, right? So one of the best methods, right, is incentivizing them through the text message. Hey, we'd love to hear back from you. So someone, it looks like, is already doing that in their auto text, which is great. If you have any email campaigns that you can schedule to go out after a service is provided, that's a great time. Or if you just are with a customer that you, or a patient that you worked with that day, right? They had a good experience, or that their mind was changed because you directly worked with them. That is an opportunity, like right then, right? When they're the most happy, that's when you want to ask them for that review. Now, on the other side too, wouldn't ask a customer or a patient who's in a tremendous amount of pain, or if you're a home service business out there and something went squirrely with the pricing of the job, probably not the greatest time to ask them for a review, but just pay attention to that, right? When the customer is most happy with you, that's immediately when you want to have some kind of trigger, or when you ask them for a review.
Right. We got a few people asking if there's going to be a rebroadcast or a recording of this to watch later.
Yeah, so I'm sure after this webinar, there is an email that's going to go out with a link to this presentation as well. If you guys have any questions about anything that happened on today's webinar, you can reach out directly to me. So I will even put in here my email address. So if you want to ask me questions, feel free to email. I get them after almost every webinar. So I just chatted in the little chat box there, my direct email. Feel free to field any questions directly to me and I'll get them answered for you. Yeah, so happy to help.
Awesome. And then just a couple more here to wrap up. Which platform is mostly looked at for reviews, or I guess which platform should people focus on to build reviews?
Yeah, it's a good question. I am a fan of maybe that your focus changes from month to month or from quarter to quarter. So back when we were talking about setting a standard, right? Remember, I don't like to set goals. I like to set a standard for whatever that is. So if my standard is, hey, we're going to focus on Google for the next 3 months and our standard is 100 reviews, then that kind of gives you a time box, right? And more of a strategy of, okay, we're really going to focus and hammer in on Google for the next 3 months. We'll look at the output of that and what we get back, and then we'll make a judgment call for the next quarter. So I see a lot of practices or businesses set focus for a month or a quarter at a time. And Google is usually a big one, right? Because it's tied to so much. But then you might also focus on Facebook, right? Social media. Maybe you haven't focused there before. Maybe you're doing great on Google, but you haven't focused on Facebook traditionally. So kind of just look at what your business, where your business is at, right? And I think that gives you a good guide for where to point some of that energy, right? But I mean, you have to be on Google. Facebook is pretty popular, but some people don't use it. But I would say, every business can be different.
Right. And then this is kind of in line with the incentivization that you talked about earlier, that you don't want to incentivize, but is it okay to ask them or to let them know that they'll be entered in as a quarterly contest for a chance to win something?
Yes, I think that's great. Yes, I think that is wonderful, right? So if you guys are able to put something like that together with your marketing team or your front office, and you have some kind of drawing, every quarter or every month, yes, I think that is fantastic. In fact, if I was in this webinar and I had a practice of my own, I'd probably take note of that and use that in some of my marketing. But yes, I love that. I think it's a great idea.
Right. And in line with that, someone recommended not directly incentivizing, but asking them to show their love for their therapist by leaving a review.
Yeah, I love that.
Great way to
yeah.
that.
And remember, right, like reviews are something that are kind of intimate, right, and a little personal. So you don't want it to sound like a robot is sending these text messages or asking for that review, right? You definitely want to let your personality show a bit, right? Make sure you stand out. I've seen practices or businesses even incorporate those little GIFs into their review text, right? Where they might have someone like kind of doing this that's like super happy or whatever, like something just to make it a little bit different and make your patients and your customers smile. I think that's always a good plan.
Excellent. And a couple people asked about review specific training online for their team using the Weave platform. I think the answer to that is you can always call in. Our customer support is great to help you out and give you any advice there.
Yep. So you can always chat into us. There is also like a help section with a bunch of pre-recorded videos on reviews. Some of you might even have, you might be newer to Weave, so you might still have some of that customer success team or our customer success representative, but we are willing to help. The feature is there. Let's make sure that we're all taking advantage of it as much as possible, right? This is super important. I'm so glad you guys are asking these questions.
Absolutely. I think I got to all of them. If I've missed your question, I apologize, but you can go ahead and email Janelle. She supplied her email there. So.
Yep. Yeah. So guys, thank you so much for attending again today. My email is in the public chat thread. So again, if you have more questions about today's webinar or just reviews in general, please feel free to email me. We'll get those questions answered for you. But otherwise, you all should receive an email with a recording to this webinar. And I hope that you learned something new. So we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.
See ya.